Welcome to MLSsoccer.com's Playoff Central, presented by Samsung Galaxy. We are here for a huge night. We're going to find out the next team to join Sporting Kansas City in MLS Cup. It's the Western Conference Championship, Leg 2 tonight. The Portland Timbers hosting Real Salt Lake, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN and ESPN Deportes. You can also see that on RDS2 in Canada. I'm your host, Jason Skinny. With me, as always, Simon Borg with the bow tie, and a special guest today, the goalkeeper for the Colorado Rapids, Clint Irwin, is joining us. And Clint, you've seen each of these teams 3 times this season, so you definitely have to know something about them at this point.
Yeah, I think that these probably the 2 best teams over the course of the season in the Western Conference. Both are strong at the back, and they have some talented attackers in the attacking half who can make an impact.
All right, well, we're going to take a look at the bracket where we things stand today. Of course, Sporting Kansas City with their victory over the Houston Dynamo yesterday. They will host MLS Cup on December 7th. Their opponent, of course, that is up in the air. Real Salt Lake has a 4-2 lead over the Portland Timbers after leg 1. This leg, though, at Geldwen Field in the friendly confines, Simon, that's good news for the Portland Timbers, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
It's good news because they've only lost once when they were at Geldwen Field. That came way earlier in the beginning of the season. But the issue is this uphill battle they have to get 2 goals back in this series. 11 teams have been in the same situation that Portland are. 2 goals down after the first leg. Only 2 have been able to turn it around. And the last one back in 2004, Kansas City.
All right, well, let's take a look at the highlights from leg 1. What led to this 2-goal deficit, especially when you consider that Portland got out to a 1-goal lead on the road with that Will Johnson goal?
Yeah, things couldn't have gotten off to a better start. Will Johnson on that free kick. You remember Nick Rimando, bit of an accomplice on that play. But then,
Hold on. Clint, what was your take on that as a goalkeeper?
Back me up on this.
Did you think Nick Rimando was to blame on that free kick, or was that something where you just kind of chalk it up to the situation?
No, I think Taylor Twellman and I were going back and forth on this on Twitter. I thought, Ramondo's in a good position, the ball is moving, and it's really easy from the sidelines to say, yes, he should have saved that. But once you're in between the sticks and the ball's dancing all over the place, you have to experience it first before you can say.
But he cheated. He cheated on the first move.
He's reacting towards the ball. He's seeing where the ball's going. The ball's changing directions in the air. It's moving left. It's moving right. He's reacting at the same time. You can't say that he's cheating one way.
But regardless from that goal, Real Salt Lake with the onslaught. Here we're seeing Devin Sandoval's goal minutes after into the second half. He says Alvaro who? Because he had a great finish on that one, making people forget about Saborio. And then they got a 4th goal. Javier Morales with another set-piece goal. Portland unlucky that ball squirts through. But then the goal that gives Portland hope. Great cross by Jack Dewsbury and a towering header from Frederick Piquillon. A lot of people blaming Nat Borchers on that goal, saying he somehow should have done better. I think that was a great cross and great header.
All right. Well, Clint, when you look back at that game, there were a lot of things going wrong for the Portland Timbers in that game. They've had 2 weeks now. Has that enough time to fix whatever was going wrong and get it right tonight at Geldwen Field?
I think so. You look back in the first leg, a couple individual errors. Footy Danso beaten on the corner kick. Chris Schuler gets the best of him here. And then on the second goal, again, Footy Danso stripped by Robbie Finley to take the ball in and to put them up 2-1. I also think Portland needs to close up the spaces a little bit more. I think I'd chalk that down to fatigue in the first leg, coming off quick turnaround from the previous playoff game and having to play altitude in Salt Lake City.
Well, you're pointing out the Portland faults, but I'd like to credit Real Salt Lake here because I thought they worked harder than Portland. They ran more than they did. They completed more passes. They were so much better in possession. And frankly, Portland were chasing shadows in that game. And I still think Real Salt Lake are a huge matchup problem for Portland.
All right, well, if the Timbers are going to come back from this 2-goal deficit, they're going to have to come out with a lot of energy. And, of course, they have that huge 12th man behind them, the Timbers Army. Let's head out to Geldwen Field where Sam is reporting from in front of that Timbers Army.
Thanks, guys. I'm here in front of the Timbers Army section where the energy is already rising. A lot of them started lining up on Friday night to be amongst the first in the stadium tonight to cheer on their Portland Timbers. And what many are saying is the biggest game to ever be played here at Geldwin. The last time something was played with this much magnitude was back in 1975 when the then NASL Portland Timbers beat the St. Louis Stars in the semifinals to move on to the Soccer Bowl. But that's not it. They are not the only ones excited tonight. The teams are ready to go. I spoke with both teams yesterday. General mood coming from both camps is that this night couldn't come any sooner. That 2-week break just got them more excited, and they're ready to go. And as for the Timbers Army, they've hinted at some TIFO, so be sure to check it out at kickoff.
All right, we'll see what the Timbers Army have in store. Again, you can see that game on ESPN tonight. Guys, I think it's time to take a look at the Portland lineup. Simon, they need to come back. They need to score at least 2 goals. So what does Caleb Porter do with the lineup here?
Yeah, some people thought Porter might spring a surprise here with the formation, maybe go 3 in the back. Nope, it's the same back line here. Ricketts in goal, Harrington, Dansu, Kahn, Jewsbury. We've seen that set for a number of games now. And then you have Chara and Johnson, and they are behind Wallace, Valeri, and Nagby, who are going to really bring the thrust of the attack. Then here's the big surprise, I think, for some people might be Frederic Piquillon. Not a lot of action for Portland during the course of the latter half of the season. He gets the start instead of Ryan Johnson, who's been their go-to guy in the playoffs.
All right, we were talking about this a lot before the show, guys. We didn't know who would be starting up top, Ryan Johnson or Frederic Piquillon. You guys differed in your opinion. Simon, you like Piquillon here.
Excellent
you were saying
choice.
that he should be the choice. Why is that?
Well, I think he is, from a technical standpoint, your best finisher in your forward crew. That also includes, as we said, Ryan Johnson and Max Urruti. When you have a game where there's going to be so many balls in the box, for it to fall on his foot, he's going to make the right decision, and a quick one at that. He's also great in the air. You're going to have a lot of crosses coming in. And I think he's also underrated back to goal. And he's so technically proficient, he keeps the game moving. You can't have unnecessary turnovers, which sometimes happens with Ryan Johnson.
All right, Clint, we've mentioned it. You've seen these teams a lot this year. Tell me, when you look at the Portland Timbers, as a goalkeeper, which is the forward you don't want to see up top?
I would have rather gone with Ryan Johnson here. I think he gives you a little bit more pace, a little bit more power. Something that troubles Schuler and Borchers in the back is that speed. So I think he would have been the option for me. I think he could come off the bench and give you some quality time, but Johnson would have been my choice.
But even when you're not going to have that much space behind, you figure this is going to be a half-field set with Portland really pushing Real Salt Lake.
I think Johnson's a little bit underrated in his ability to hold the ball up and also to turn off the defenders. I think that he possesses that skill, and that could help Portland in this match.
All right, well, either way, the guy who's going to be supplying the balls you'd think would be Diego Valeri. He did not have a very big impact in that first game. We know he's dealing with the adductor strain. He's had 2 weeks now to rest it. Is that enough for him to come back and put his stamp on this game, Simon?
Well, I don't think it's enough, because that injury can flare up at any point, the adductor. But I think Caleb Porter really making the only decision he can, which is starting Diego Valeri, because you can't bring him off the bench. Because this is the second leg of this series, and you could potentially have extra time, you can't bring him on late knowing that he's a potential liability and might have to be subbed, if you have any subs by that point. So you have to start him, see what you can get out of him, get as many goals as you can early, but you know he's not going to last a full 90.
All right, the Achilles heel for the Portland Timbers, and we've seen it over and over, especially in that last game against Real Salt Lake. Set piece defending has not been good for Portland all season long. Clint, as a goalkeeper, I'm sure you know a little something about set piece defending. Tell me, what can Portland do? They only need to get it right in this one game, and they're an MLS Cup. They can put all that regular season woes behind them. What do they need to do in this game to clean up their set piece defending?
I think it starts with Pa Moduka needs to be marking Chris Schuler. Chris Schuler's shown he's the main target for Real Salt Lake. Ka, he's the best 1v1 defender for Portland. He knows the tricks of the trade in the box, where he's pulling shirts, he's grabbing, tackling, borderline legal, borderline a foul.
Tricks of the trade. It's a trick if it works. It's a PK if it doesn't.
Exactly. But how many times have we seen these fouls called in the box in the playoffs? The referees, they're letting it go. Ka's getting away with it. That's his way of defending, and he has to be on Schuler in this match.
But what I would say is that, can you really improve your set piece defending? I'm really skeptic of that when teams say that. Aside from maybe moving a matchup here and there, as you mentioned, maybe putting Ka on the most dangerous player from Salt Lake, I think all you can say is that maybe this year the Portland Timbers don't have enough great set piece defenders, guys who are great in the air, guys who are maybe physically imposing, except for one or two, and you're getting outmatched. And we're seeing it by the numbers. 58%, I think, of the goals they've conceded on set pieces.
It's a staggering statistic to say that more than half of your goals given up have been on set pieces. And I think what it comes down to is in the system that they play, which is man-to-man, it's individual responsibility. You've got to stop your man from getting to the ball and to defend well.
Guys, let's take a look at the Portland Timbers lineup here. I'm sorry, we looked at the Portland Timbers lineup. And starting for them, of course, is Jack Jewsbury at right back. This is a guy who knows a little something about coming back from 2 goals down. He was part of it the last time against Sporting Kansas City. Our own Sam Yarrick spoke with him earlier at Geldwin Field.
All right, Jack, you guys have struggled defensively against RSL this season when it comes to set pieces. 2 of their goals in the first leg came off of set pieces. What are you going to do differently tonight to prevent those goals from being converted?
Yeah, definitely a point of emphasis. The past few weeks had some time to work on it, but at the end of the day, it's individual battles, and guys that are marking up just got to be tight and close to their men.
All right, and overcoming a 2-goal deficit has only been done twice in MLS, and you were a part of that team in 2004, scoring the game-winning goal. What advice have you been giving to some of the younger guys on your team about achieving that?
Yeah, I think even 2004, it wasn't about going out and doing anything that we don't do differently game in, game out. We've been solid over this course of the year. We have some unbelievable attacking guys, so we're not going to open ourselves up in terms of pushing everyone forward early on in the game. Obviously, if it's still tight late in the game and we need a goal, we got to take some risks. But at the end of the day, this team, especially here at home, we've been very, very good in terms of pressing teams and creating chances. It's just a matter of how early can we get that first one.
Well, guys, we've talked a lot about the Portland Timbers to this point, but really Real Salt Lake holds the cards in this match. They have a 2-goal lead. So, Clint, Jason Kreis is going to trot out a team trying to defend that 2-goal lead. Who's he sending out there tonight?
In goal, we've got standby Nick Raimondo, for my money, the goalkeeper of the year in the MLS. Little change up here with Winger out. Lavelle Palmer slots in at left back. It's going to be an interesting matchup against Nagby. In midfield, Grabavoy passed the fitness test. Seems like he's available. We'll see how far he can go. If he can go 90, that's the big question. And then up top, Devin Sandoval and Robbie Finley, who have proven to be a pretty good combination.
All right, we talked a lot about Devin Sandoval, of course, in the last game. Alvaro Saborio didn't make the trip. He is out. He's their designated player, their money man. But, Simon, you think that Sandoval is a better player for them when it comes down to it for Real Salt Lake?
I do, and I think it starts with the amount of work he puts in a game, his work rate. I think it's better than Alvaro Saborio. He may not have the experience and finishing ability of Saborio, but I thought he wasn't too shabby on this goal. What a touch and what a finish. I think he can still do that and also pressure more during a game, and I think that's what Real Salt Lake need in this game. They need him to harass the Portland defenders, harass those midfielders, the deep midfielders, Chara and Johnson, and not let Portland get any rhythm. He's going to be able to do that for 90 minutes and more. That's his work rate.
All right, you mentioned it, Clint. The other big change here, Chris Winger, broken ribs in that collision with Diego Valeri in the last game. He is out. Lavelle Palmer now slots in at left back. That's a big change here for Salt Lake.
Certainly, it's going to be difficult with the loudness at Geldwin. Raimondo and Borchers and Schuler, they're all going to have some trouble communicating, especially with Lavelle Palmer slotting in. Hasn't played too many games this year, and then having to go up against Darlington Nagby. Not an easy matchup for him.
And here's the biggest issue. Of the 14 starts Lavelle Palmer has made, he has 5 cards, including one of them being a red card. Look, this is an aggressive player, borderline reckless. He's a card waiting to happen, and in this kind of big situation, I don't think if you're Real Salt Lake, you can afford an early card, especially when he's going up against Nagby. And remember, this is his former team, so he may have a point to prove, maybe a little extra juice in these tackles. He's going to have to calm down.
I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise to see Portland trying to go through Diego Valeri anyway. But when you have a guy like Lavelle Palmer there who you could maybe take advantage of, you'd expect Darlington Nagbe to get a lot of the ball in this game. Guys, Grabavoy back in the lineup. That was a little bit of a surprise. We thought maybe Sebastian Velasquez would still get the start because there are questions. How long can Grabavoy go? He hasn't played for a couple weeks. Simon, you think he's a big impact in this lineup now?
Yeah, I think it's the right decision. A lot of people argued that Velasquez maybe deserved a start here based on what he's done in the playoffs. I think, though, Grabavoy is a better two-way player, and you're going to have a lot of two-way action in this game. Also, he's going to make the right decisions, and he's going to be composed. I think Sebastian Velasquez, being he's so young, might try to do a little bit too much, and he's prone to costly turnover here and there. So I think it's the best decision to go with Grabavoy.
All right, Clinton, you had mentioned that it's tough to hear your goalkeeper as a defender in front of that Timbers Army. Let's go out to Geldwin Field, where one of those defenders who's going to be struggling to hear Nick Raimondo, Nat Borchers, caught up with Sam Yarrick when he arrived at the stadium.
All right, Nat, the Portland Timbers are known to be an extremely aggressive team here at home. How do you plan on shutting them down and preventing an early goal?
That's the tough part, I think, tonight. You know, we really have to come out with the right mentality, and that mentality is 0-0. I think in our minds, we have to come out, play the game like it's 0-0, go for that first goal and see where things fall.
All right, and looking back at some of your previous experiences with this team, the 2011 playoffs against Seattle, your CONCACAF Champions League games down in Saprissa, very similar, hostile environment, playing on turf. You guys went in with a lead. What are some of the lessons that you're telling to the younger guys that you learned from those games?
We just have to be ourselves. I mean, tonight really, we have to be aggressive. We have to keep the ball. We have to defend very well and be in good spots and cover for each other. And really, if we do those things, if we match their intensity and exceed it, I think we're going to come out on top.
All right, well, thank you and good luck tonight.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, looking at this matchup, Portland down 2 goals. They need to score 2 goals. But let's say this game goes and they're canceling each other out, and you get to maybe halftime. If you're Caleb Porter, what are you doing? What kind of change can he make, and when does he make that change in this matchup?
Well, I think first, it goes without saying that Al Hassan at some point is coming in for Diego Valeri. So that's going to be a sub that's going to happen. Then I think if you really need goals and you have to throw in another forward, I think the likely candidate is Jack Jewsbury. The right back coming out, you throw in a forward, and then you go 3 in the back. Other guys you can take out, maybe if you're late in the game, maybe a Diego Chara, maybe a Will Johnson, one of those guys to even throw in another body in the box, but that we're talking desperation mode. But I think the first subs we're talking about are Al Hassan, and then I know Ruti may be coming in instead of Jewsbury.
Clinton, let me ask you, when would you pull the trigger? Again, is it halftime? Is it 60th minute, 70th minute? When do you get into desperation mode when you're down 2 goals?
I think if nothing has changed by halftime, score remains 0-0 in the second leg, you've got to make changes at halftime. What those changes are, I don't think we're necessarily too sure. We haven't seen Portland come out with a totally different system this year. They've been playing 4-3-3 the whole year, and they've said, this is who we are, and this is how we're going to win the game. So it's going to be interesting to see what might happen.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, they've been playing with the lead most of the season. That's how you end up, as the first team in the West. Let's get to one more question I want to ask you, and I asked this ahead of the last game. If the game goes to PKs, which of these 2 teams do you think has the advantage?
I'm going with Salt Lake. Raimondo on penalties, faced 3 penalties this year, saved 2 of them. That's the percentage that you're looking for as a teammate, as a taker. And on the other side with Ricketts, he's faced 5 penalties this year. 4 have been scored and 1 was missed. He hasn't come up with a save in the penalty situations that he's faced.
I would agree with Clint. I think you got to go with Nick Raimondo in these spots. I think he has such a reputation now. He also gets in the minds of the players. So you figure psychologically, and that's a big part of penalty kicks, he'd have an edge.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it before in the Eastern Conference Championship games, all the way back to that game he played for DC in 2004 against the New England Revolution, saving Clint Dempsey's penalty at the end. He did it against the Chicago Fire as well years later. So no doubts there that Nick Raimondo is the guy you want on your team if you're going to a PK shootout. And, of course, you can't have Clint Irwin. That's our first choice. At least tonight it is. All right, guys. It's time. We're wrapping it up here. It's time for our predictions for this match. Clint, let us know. What do you think is going to happen on the field tonight?
I'm going 2-0 Portland.
You think they're going to make it back?
I think they're going to make it back. Not all the way, though. I'm going with Salt Lake in penalties.
All right, Simon, what do you have?
I have Portland winning as well, 2-1. I think they're going to throw so much at Real Salt Lake that they're going to get a couple goals. I think Salt Lake, though, nicks one. And in the end, the big difference is going to be Nick Raimondo. Reflex save. He's going to have so much coming at him. And Chris Schuler's in form. I think he's going to have plenty to say in this game.
All right, I think it's going to be a similar game to Simon. I see a couple more goals. 3-2 for the Portland Timbers, but it will not be enough in the end. I think Salt Lake, they basically won this series as far as I'm concerned in that first leg, getting out of it with a 2-goal lead. I wanted to take this time to remind everyone we are going to have a live pregame show ahead of the MLS Cup final, of course, on December 7th. We know now that it will be in Kansas City, so the game will be 3 p.m. Eastern time, and our show will be on 4 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. local. Our live show here on MLSsoccer.com will be 3 p.m. Eastern time. Now that I have all my time zones corrected, we're wrapping it up. Don't forget you can check this game out on ESPN and ESPN Deportes, 9 p.m., so you can start heading over there now. That's all we have, but we will be back here after the match on MLSsoccer.com for more on our live post-game show. Thanks again for joining us on MLSsoccer.com's Playoff Central, presented by Samsung Galaxy.